I can't do what you did, Swamiji, way back. Maybe I could have done, no, maybe if I take myself back 30 years back, maybe I could have done exactly. We have met 30 years back, maybe I it's too late for me. Now the dilemma you're solving is in this context. Now
Hmm.
we are into this Karmyo, into no
Yes.
doing. And my obsession with people. I can't see a
Hmm.
sad face. And just to give us
Hmm.
one incident, and some of my people who are watching can vouch for this. If I walk into any place, if I don't see anybody smiling, I stop and ask the person, no, anything
Hmm.
wrong? What can we do? I just can't handle
Sure.
that. You know. Now
Correct.
help me.
Correct.
What do you think no is the right way, and how can I ensure that I
Yes.
can make it blissful in the context of things
Yes.
that we're and we're not going to
Yes.
shut the company. That's not the solution. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tapanji, for that. But firstly, you don't have to shut your company. Like you were referring to the Bhagavad Gita, and when the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, Shri Krishna did not ask Arjun to shut his company. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken so that the company can be run well, so that
Right.
Hastinapur can be run well. The message of the Gita is, you alluded to that in your question, is not about a religion. When we're talking about this ancient wisdom, we are talking about a way of life. We are talking about a mindset. We are talking about a set of universal values and principles which, when applied, can transform the nature of our work, can transform the nature of our happiness, can transform the nature of our productivity, can transform the nature of our interpersonal dealings, can transform the nature of the quality of our joy and our happiness. So we are talking about a set of universal principles and values for which one definitely doesn't need to give up. Right? It's not about giving up. It's about integrating. You know, it's about integrating and bringing these values and these principles. And since we have professionals today, we're talking in particular about the workplace. Right? And since your question is also about that, that how do you kind of really make sure that all of these are integrated together? Like one side of it is you're able to give them a thick fat paycheck which allows them to fulfill their desires, maybe get a BMW, maybe get a 3 bedroom flat at Piramal Mahalakshmi in Mumbai, maybe get their desires fulfilled. And you mentioned that that happiness is very short lived. So here's what I want to bring in three different terms. Right? One is called happiness, second is called satisfaction, and third is called joy or bliss. And I think we definitely need to understand the difference between the three. These are very loosely used. I want to be satisfied, fulfilled, happy, joyful. We use as if they're synonyms. You know, they're three different terms. Now, when we're talking about the word happiness, we are talking about the experience that we feel or we derive based on our dependence on somebody or something outside of us. Right? Like I eat a good preparation and I get a great experience. That's happiness. I buy a new car and I feel comfortable. That's happiness. I have a relationship with somebody and they praise me. That's happiness. Right? So basically, for that experience, I need something outside of me. Right? Now, इसको हिंदी में हम सुख कहेंगे. Right? Sukh. Now, it's funny because in this case, we need something outside of us to be happy. At the workplace, it means a good work culture, a good work ethic, a good work ethos, a good pay package, a good team, no workplace politics, no toxic bosses, no toxic team members, great growth opportunities. These are all things external and outside of us. And we say, I'm very happy at work because all of these boxes are ticked. You know what I mean? So the number one thing with happiness is I'm dependent on something outside of me. And the number two thing about happiness is because I'm dependent something on outside of me, there is a potential for disappointment as well. Like if I depend on somebody, today he'll praise me, tomorrow he won't. Right? If I'm depending on happiness for in a car, today the car is giving me happy, tomorrow the car is the same boring car, after a year the same model. You know, so there's a lot of disappointment that can creep in when we are dependent too much on things outside of us. So work culture included. If I'm constantly dependent on things outside of me, there will be disappointment. You can't change people around you. You can't change people around you. Some people are just hardwired to be who they are, you know. So if you're going to be saying that, okay, these guys are all toxic around me, these guys are troubling me, you change a job and go to another, take up another opportunity, you'll find people like that there as well, you know. So that's number one, happiness. Dependent on something outside of us, and which is precisely why also has a seed for disappointment. The second word is satisfaction, जिसको हम हिंदी में संतोष कहते हैं. सुख and then santosh. Satisfaction or santosh is a very deep experience beyond what's happening outside of us, right? And therefore, when we talk about satisfaction, we talk about self-expression. So what it means here is whether you praise me or not, I'm finding my experience out of expressing myself, my work. You know, in a relationship, whether you are reciprocating or not, I'm finding my satisfaction out of giving. That gives a deep sense of experience, santosh, satisfaction. Like at work, if I'm just going for chasing numbers and promotions and high ratings, 1 year I get them, another year I don't, and I'm disappointed. So my happiness is in a flux, changing. But satisfaction is I'm expressing myself fully and I'm giving 200% at my work. So I'm so true to myself that I'm deeply satisfied. I always love to tell the story of this one man who was making a temple. And in this temple, he wanted to install on a huge pillar, stamba, like about 50 to 80 feet high, a murti of Garuda. So he ordered this murti of Garuda to a sculptor. So when he went to the sculptor, after 6 months, the sculptor said, sorry, your murti is not ready. He said, you promised 6 months, right? And it's not ready. He said, no, just give me another 2-3 months, I'll be done. So the man said, fine. And he was walking around in the workshop to see the work of the sculptor, and he found a deity of Garuda, a murti of Garuda, exactly the way he had asked for. He said, this is the one, right? He said, yeah, I was making this one for you, but there's a problem there. He said, what's the problem? He said, there's a fault in that murti that I was carving for you. He said, may I ask you what the fault is? The sculptor said, if you see the beak of Garuda, the eagle, just underneath the beak, there's a tiny little dent in the marble. The man said, my dear sir, this murti is going to be installed 50 feet above the ground. Who the bloody hell is going to see this tiny dent? The sculptor said, nobody will see it except God and me. Except God and me. And I will not do a half-hearted job. Correct? Now here, he's not seeking happiness, not dependent on what people are saying. Whatever people will say, it doesn't matter. He's dependent on self-expression and doing his best. That is where comes the second term, which is satisfaction. And this is such a deep feeling, nobody can touch this because it's not dependent on others, right? And the third one is called joy or bliss, which in Hindi or Sanskrit is called anand. So there's happiness, satisfaction, and bliss or joy. And in Sanskrit or Hindi, it's sukh, santosh, and anand. And when we're talking about anand or joy or bliss, we are talking about going way deeper than satisfaction, work, relationships, world, nature of everything around us, cars and homes. We're looking at self-discovery and connecting very deeply to our own selves, right? That is where the spiritual dimension comes in. And I think all three are essential in life, right? You can't say, I shouldn't have happiness. Why? Why shouldn't you have a good car? Why shouldn't you give your people a good paycheck? Why shouldn't their desires be fulfilled? The only problem is if you get stuck at happiness, life is miserable because it's always up and down, up and down. So you go a little deeper to satisfaction, and then you go a little deeper to bliss. So when all three are together and integrated, that is a complete life. You know, that is a more complete and a holistic life. I always love to say, one guy asked a man, what is the difference between the word complete and finished? This man answered, if you get the right partner in marriage in your life is complete. If you get a wrong partner, your life is finished.